a drop of golden sun.
When The Sound of Music first graced the screen in 1965, America, and indeed the entire world, was swept away by a story that seemed almost too enchanting to be real. A young postulant turned governess, a stern widower softened by love, 7 mischievous yet endearing children, and the looming shadow of history all collided in a sweeping musical that sang itself into cinematic immortality. The Hills of Salzburg became more than just a backdrop, they were transformed into a living memory for generations, where Julie Andrews's crystalline voice floated across the mountains and Christopher Plummer's quiet intensity grounded the story in bittersweet truth. It was a film that transcended language, borders, and even time itself, carrying with it an eternal sense of innocence, romance, and resilience. But what lies behind such timeless magic is always a more complex human story. The cast of The Sound of Music, once young, vibrant, and full of promise, eventually had to face the same inevitabilities of life that all of us do. Their characters never aged on screen, Liesl forever remained 16 going on 17, and the mother abbess always sang her soaring farewell with unwavering faith. Yet off-screen, time moved forward. Careers soared and faltered, personal lives unraveled or blossomed, and one by one, some of these beloved actors left this world, their stories sealed in both triumph and tragedy. It is perhaps this duality, the eternal youth preserved in film against the reality of mortality, that makes revisiting their lives so poignant. To watch The Sound of Music today is to see echoes of performers whose voices are now silent, whose smiles once lit up the screen but can only live on in memory. Christopher Plummer, who reluctantly accepted the role of Captain von Trapp and later admitted he grew to cherish it, is no longer with us. Charmian Carr, whose portrayal of Liesl captured the universal ache of adolescence, too has passed on. Heather Menzies-Urich, Eleanor Parker, Peggy Wood, each added their own indelible touch to this cinematic tapestry and then faced their own farewells. Their absence adds a layer of melancholy to each viewing, reminding us that art is eternal, but the artists themselves are not. The Sound of Music has always been more than a film. It is a touchstone of memory, a piece of shared cultural fabric woven into the lives of millions who grew up humming Do-Re-Mi or tearing up during Edelweiss. But it is also a story about the fleeting nature of life and the resilience of legacy. These actors, gone though they may be, left behind pieces of themselves in every frame, every note, every line delivered with conviction. And when we revisit the film, we are not only revisiting a masterpiece of cinema, but also reopening the pages of their lives, which continue to resonate long after their passing. Tonight, we turn back the clock to honor those who shaped the sound of music and whose voices now echo only in memory. Their journeys were as varied as the roles they played, some filled with acclaim, others shadowed by personal battles, all inevitably shaped by the relentless march of time. As we walk once more through the story of Maria and the Von Trapps, we pause to remember the actors behind the magic, who gave us their best performances before bidding their own final goodbyes. Christopher Plummer, the reluctant captain who became a legend. When audiences think of Captain von Trapp, they often picture the stern yet deeply human figure who stood at the heart of The Sound of Music. But for Christopher Plummer, the role was not one he initially embraced. In fact, he famously admitted that he found the character too stiff, too saintly, and at times even boring. And yet, it was this very reluctance that lent his performance a certain gravitas, the quiet strength of a man who had suffered loss, carried the weight of fatherhood, and only slowly allowed love and music back into his home. Born in Toronto, Canada, in 1929, Plummer was already a seasoned stage actor by the time he stepped into the shoes of Captain von Trapp. He had been classically trained and revered in theater circles for his Shakespearean roles. At 36 years old during filming, he was at a transitional point in his career, and The Sound of Music provided him with the kind of global visibility that stage work alone could not. Yet, for decades afterward, Plummer wrestled with the legacy of the film, at times referring to it as the sound of mucus, a sign of his frustration at being defined by a single role in a career that spanned 7 decades. Despite his ambivalence, Plummer's artistry continued to flourish long after The Hills of Salzburg. He reinvented himself countless times on screen and stage, earning acclaim for his versatility. From The Insider to Beginners, the latter of which earned him an Academy Award at the age of 82, making him the oldest actor ever to win an Oscar at the time, Plummer proved that he was never a man confined to one performance. His late career resurgence showed a hunger for complexity, whether playing kings, villains, or fragile human souls seeking redemption. Beyond his professional triumphs, Plummer's life was not without turbulence. He spoke candidly of past struggles with alcohol and fractured personal relationships, even as he maintained an image of charm and wit in public. His love life, marked by marriages and separations, was often under quiet scrutiny, yet he remained deeply respected in his industry for his resilience and dedication to his craft. Christopher Plummer passed away peacefully in February 2021 at the age of 91, leaving behind a monumental legacy. Though he may have bristled at being remembered first and foremost as Captain von Trapp, there is no denying that it was this role that endeared him to millions. To watch him today, standing tall, arms folded, yet softening as Julie Andrews's Maria enters his world, is to witness an actor who, even in a role he resisted, became unforgettable. His passing was felt not just as the loss of a great actor, but as the quiet closing of a chapter in cinema history. Charmian Carr, the girl who sang 16 going on 17, forever. For many who fell in love with the sound of music, Charmian Carr will always remain the wide-eyed, graceful Liesl, the eldest of the Von Trapp children. At just 21 years old during filming, she embodied the spirit of youthful innocence on the cusp of adulthood, singing the unforgettable 16 going on 17 in a gazebo scene that has since become iconic. Carr's performance captured the thrill, naivety, and sweetness of first love so perfectly that for decades audiences could not separate her from the character. She became immortalized in that moment, twirling in the rain, hopeful for the future, forever 16. Yet Carr's path after the film was far less certain. Despite her natural beauty and talent, she never pursued a long career in Hollywood. She dabbled in acting, appearing in a handful of projects, but soon stepped away from the spotlight to raise a family and later worked as an interior designer. Interestingly, her design skills won her a prestigious clientele that included high-profile figures such as Michael Jackson. While she did not achieve the Hollywood stardom that The Sound of Music might have promised, she crafted a different kind of success for herself, one rooted in family, creativity, and personal fulfillment. Still, Carr remained deeply tied to the legacy of Liesl. For decades she attended reunions, appeared at fan events, and even authored 2 books reflecting on her unique place in cinematic history, Forever Liesl and Letters to Liesl. These works revealed not only her gratitude for the role but also her struggles with being forever remembered as a teenager when life had moved her far beyond that age. Fans adored her honesty and humility, and she in turn embraced the lifelong connection with those who cherished the film. Charmian Carr's life, however, was not without hardship. She faced ongoing health struggles later in life, including complications from dementia. On September 17, 2016, she passed away at the age of 73, leaving behind a legacy that was both joyful and bittersweet. For fans, her death felt like losing a piece of their own youth, as if Liesl herself had finally grown older and left the gazebo behind. But through the magic of cinema, Carr remains forever young, forever 16 going on 17, dancing beneath the glow of first love, captured for eternity in one of Hollywood's most beloved films. Heather Menzies-Urich, From the Hills of Austria to Life's Quiet Farewell. Heather Menzies-Urich, who played Louisa von Trapp, the mischievous third child, was only 15 when she stepped onto the set of The Sound of Music. With her sparkling eyes and playful energy, she brought Louisa to life as the spirited sibling who delighted in teasing the governess and joining in the family's joyous musical numbers. Though Louisa was not the eldest nor the youngest, her character embodied that middle child charm, making her an unforgettable part of the Von Trapp family dynamic. Unlike some of her fellow child actors, Menzies-Urich pursued acting for several years after the film's release. She appeared in television series throughout the 1960s and 70s, including guest roles in popular shows and a starring part in the cult sci-fi series Logan's Run. Yet, as with many young actors, the fame from The Sound of Music remained her defining moment in Hollywood, a role that fans continued to associate with her long after she had moved on to other projects. Her personal life was marked by both love and loss. She married actor Robert Urich in 1975, and together they formed one of television's most admired couples of that era. The two built a family, raising 3 children, and worked tirelessly not only in their careers but also in philanthropy. After Robert's tragic death in 2002 from a rare cancer, Heather dedicated much of her life to continuing his charitable work, particularly through the Robert Urich Foundation, which focused on cancer research and patient care. Despite her efforts to step away from Hollywood spotlight, Menzies-Urich remained connected to the enduring magic of The Sound of Music. She often participated in cast reunions and fan events, where audiences remembered her with warmth and affection. Her willingness to share memories of her time on set kept alive the behind-the-scenes stories that fascinated generations of fans. In December 2017, Heather Menzies-Urich passed away at the age of 68 after a brief battle with brain cancer. Her death marked another loss in the chain of Von Trapp children who had once filled the screen with laughter and song. Yet, for those who watch the film today, Louisa's sly grin and lively spirit continue to shine, preserving Heather's youthful charm forever. Her life, though touched by sorrow, was defined by resilience, family devotion, and a grace that made her story as enduring as the film that first introduced her to the world. Eleanor Parker, the elegant Baroness with a graceful exit. Eleanor Parker was already a seasoned star by the time she joined The Sound of Music, stepping into the role of Baroness Elsa Schrader, the poised and glamorous woman who seemed the perfect match for Captain von Trapp, at least on paper. At 43 years old during filming, Parker brought sophistication and subtlety to a character who could have easily been portrayed as a cold obstacle to Maria. Instead, she infused the Baroness with warmth, intelligence, and even a touch of vulnerability, making her more than just a foil in the love story. Audiences may not have rooted for her in the end, but they respected her elegance, and she left the film with dignity rather than disgrace. Long before her Salzburg days, Parker was celebrated as one of Hollywood's most versatile leading ladies. Born in 1922 in Ohio, she began her career at Warner Brothers in the early 1940s and quickly rose to prominence. Known as the Woman of 1,000 Faces, Parker had the rare ability to disappear completely into her roles. She earned 3 Academy Award nominations in the 1950s, most notably for Caged, 1950, where she played a vulnerable young woman navigating the brutal realities of prison life. From musicals to melodramas, thrillers to romances, she proved time and again that she was one of the era's most adaptable talents. Her career in later years was less prolific, as Hollywood began shifting its focus to younger stars and new styles of storytelling. Nevertheless, she remained admired for her body of work and respected by her peers. Off-screen, Parker's personal life was filled with the kind of ups and downs familiar to many in the industry. She married 4 times and raised 4 children, often balancing the demands of family with the ever-changing world of Hollywood. Unlike some contemporaries, she avoided scandal and instead cultivated a reputation for professionalism and quiet strength. When The Sound of Music was released, Parker's performance as the Baroness stood as one of her last major film roles, marking the close of a luminous chapter in her career. Though she stepped back from the spotlight, she remained a beloved figure for fans of classic cinema, with her name forever tied to one of the most successful musicals of all time. Eleanor Parker passed away in December 2013 at the age of 91. Her departure was mourned not with sensational headlines but with heartfelt tributes to her extraordinary versatility and grace. Watching her today in The Sound of Music is a reminder of her ability to embody elegance while adding unexpected layers to a character meant to be secondary. For many, she remains the epitome of the Baroness, stylish, composed, and unforgettable, even in farewell. Peggy Wood, the Mother Abbess whose voice still echoes. Peggy Wood's presence in The Sound of Music is one of serene authority and maternal warmth. As the Mother Abbess, she delivered words of wisdom and encouragement to Maria, reminding her that, when the Lord closes a door, somewhere he opens a window. Though her role was relatively brief, it was unforgettable, anchored by her performance of the soaring anthem, Climb Every Mountain. That moment, filled with conviction and faith, became not just the heart of the film but a lasting piece of cinema history. By the time she joined the cast in 1965, Wood was already in her 70s and carried with her a long, distinguished career in the performing arts. Born in Brooklyn in 1892, she had been a celebrated Broadway actress since the early 20th century, with a career that spanned both stage and screen. Known for her refined poise and versatility, she appeared in operettas, dramas, and musicals, gaining the admiration of audiences across generations. Her transition into film and television later in life added yet another layer to her artistic legacy, proving her adaptability in an ever-evolving industry. Interestingly, in The Sound of Music, the powerful notes of "Climb Every Mountain" were not sung by Wood herself. By then, her voice had grown too fragile for such demanding music, and a professional singer dubbed the vocals. Still, it was her commanding presence, dignified gestures, and emotional delivery that gave the performance its impact. For audiences, the Mother Abbess was both a guide and a guardian, embodying a kind of moral compass in the story, and that was entirely Peggy Wood's artistry. Off-screen, Wood lived a relatively private life. She was married twice, and though she never sought the spotlight in the way Hollywood stars often did, she was deeply respected within the theatrical community. Her contemporaries saw her as a consummate professional, someone who brought elegance and intelligence to every role she took on. Peggy Wood passed away in March 1978 at the age of 86. While many of the younger cast members went on to pursue long careers or public lives, Wood's departure marked the loss of one of the last great links to the golden age of American theater. Watching her today, seated in the Abbey with her calm authority or lifting Maria's spirits with her gentle encouragement, one cannot help but feel her enduring strength. Even though her real voice may have been replaced in song, her spirit remains woven into every note, every word, every gesture, an eternal echo of guidance and grace. The Sound of Music has lived on for 60 years as more than just a film. It is a cultural memory, a treasure passed from parents to children, a reminder of hope in dark times. Yet when we revisit its shining images today, we are struck by the bittersweet reality that not all who filled those frames are still with us. Christopher Plummer, once the reluctant captain, left behind a legacy that stretched far beyond Salzburg. Charmian Carr, forever youthful Liesl, remains etched into our imaginations as the girl on the brink of adulthood. Heather Menzies-Urich, playful Louisa, carried her love for family and philanthropy into her later years. Eleanor Parker, the elegant Baroness, represented Hollywood's golden versatility with quiet grace. And Peggy Wood, the Mother Abbess, gave us one of cinema's most enduring moments of courage and faith, even as her voice was carried by another. Their stories remind us of the fleeting nature of life and the permanence of art. Though their lives took many directions, from Oscar-winning careers to quiet domestic happiness, from fame to charitable service, each of them gave a part of themselves to this film, and in doing so, to us. Watching The Sound of Music today is not just a nostalgic return to a beloved story, it is also an act of remembrance. It is hearing Christopher Plummer's quiet strength, feeling Charmian Carr's innocence, smiling at Heather Menzies' spirited charm, admiring Eleanor Parker's poise, and being moved by Peggy Wood's unwavering calm. For those of us who continue to hum the melodies or tear up at Edelweiss, the film is a reminder that art has the power to defy time. The actors may be gone, but in each frame they live on, preserved in a moment of joy, youth, and artistry that cannot fade. Their absence today adds a quiet poignancy, but it also deepens our appreciation for what they left behind. As we close this tribute, perhaps the most fitting farewell is not sorrow, but gratitude. Gratitude for the performances that shaped our childhoods, gratitude for the legacies that continue to inspire, and gratitude for the way The Sound of Music reminds us that while life is finite, the impact of art and memory is eternal. And so, just as the hills were alive with music, they remain alive with the echoes of those we have lost, voices that continue to sing, long after their final curtain has fallen.